Before Griffey had swag and before Bonds had power, Dave Parker was the blueprint. Tonight on Locked On A's, we say goodbye to a legend.
You are Locked On A's, your daily podcast on the Athletics, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On A's, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, Booney. Today's episode isn't about trade rumors or last night's box score. Today's about legacy, about power, about swagger. It's about the kind of player who didn't just light up the stat sheet. He lit up every damn stadium he walked into. We're talking about Dave Parker, the Cobra, who passed away today at age 74. A man who redefined what a ball player could be. Big, bold, unrelenting. He was everything you wanted in a baseball hero. He walked like a king. He hit like a god. He threw like a missile. And he mentored like a father. Dave Parker was all of it. But this isn't a eulogy. It's a full throttle tribute because Parker wasn't just a Pirate. He wasn't just an MVP. He was an Oakland A too. And his time in green and gold mattered. He helped lead a clubhouse of wild kids and future Hall of Famers. He brought edge. He brought wisdom. He brought that Cobra venom when the A's were building a juggernaut. So in today's show, we're going deep into Parker's life, his rise, his battles, his time in Oakland, and the legacy that echoes from Crosley Field to the Coliseum to Cooperstown. Let's get into it. The sun is going to shine, the wind is going to blow, and Dave is going to go 4 for 4. These words, brash and confident, capture the swagger of a man known as the Cobra. Few players in baseball history were as talented, as entertaining, or as larger than life than Dave Parker. In a career spanning 19 seasons, Parker, at 6'5" with a cannon arm and a booming bat, became a household name in the late 1970s as one of the game's most feared hitters. He won batting titles. He was named National League MVP and earned the name Cobra for the striking way he could attack a baseball. But Parker's story is about much more than stats and accolades. It's a journey of highs and lows, of pride and pain, and of a young man's rising from Cincinnati streets to baseball stardom, stumbling and finding redemption, and ultimately cementing a legacy that will echo in Cooperstown forever. Our story begins in the 1950s with a young boy playing ball in the shadows of Cincinnati's Crosley Field. David Gene Parker was born in Grenada, Mississippi, but raised in Cincinnati, Ohio. As a kid, he spent hours watching Reds greats like Frank Robinson and Vada Pinson, dreaming of making his own mark one day. Parker was a natural athlete, a star in football and baseball in high school until a devastating knee injury in his senior year ended his football aspirations. That twist of fate, as Parker would later say, changed his life, steering him fully towards baseball. By the 70s, the Pittsburgh Pirates took a chance on the 18-year-old Parker in the 14th round of the MLB draft. Parker was raw, but he was brimming with potential. Parker debuted in the majors in July of 1973, just months after the tragic death of legendary Pirate outfielder Roberto Clemente. From day one, comparisons swirled. Could this big, strong kid be the next Clemente? Parker wasn't interested in being anyone's heir apparent. Everybody was talking about me being the next Roberto Clemente. That wasn't what I was trying to achieve, Parker later said. I was trying to make my mark as the first Dave Parker. With that mix of respect and confidence, Parker set out to forge his own identity. Parker quickly proved he was a new kind of star in Pittsburgh. In his first full season, 1975, he hit .308 with 25 bombs and 101 ribbies, finishing third in MVP voting as a 24-year-old. By 77, he won the National League batting title, .338 and a Gold Glove in right field, showing off not only a powerful bat, but a cannon arm. The next year, 78, he was even better, leading the league with a .334 average, crushing 30 bombs, stealing 20 bases, and earning the title of National League Most Valuable Player. During that 78 season, Parker even fractured his jaw and cheekbone in a home plate collision, but missed only 2 weeks, returning to action with a custom black and yellow hockey goalie's mask protecting his face. And in 79, Parker hit .310 with 25 bombs and 94 ribbies, winning his third Gold Glove award, stealing another 20 bags, and leading the Pirates to a World Series win over the Orioles. At his peak, there was seemingly nothing he couldn't do on a baseball field. Quote unquote, I was the best player in the league, Parker would later reflect. I don't think anybody could do everything the way I did. His peers agreed. Pirates captain Willie Stargell marveled. The talent Dave Parker has is just awesome. He can excel every phase of the game. While manager Chuck Tanner noted, Dave Parker can beat you in every way, with the home run or the single, with his speed or his throwing arm or his defense. He is the complete player. But it wasn't just stats that made Parker a sensation. It was the flair with which he played. Fans marveled at his exploits. The time in the minor leagues, he blasted a home run so far that it landed in a coal car and rode clear out of West Virginia. Or the night he swung so hard, he literally knocked the cover off the baseball. And of course, there was his arm. In the 79 All-Star game in Seattle, Parker, clad in the Pirates' bright gold uniform, fielded a base hit in right field and unleashed a laser to home plate, nailing runner Brian Downing as he tried to score. It was his second outfield assist of that game, preserving a 6-6 tie in the ninth inning and earning him All-Star MVP honors. Those throws became instant legend, replayed for years on highlight reels, and they showcased why opposing runners fear testing the Cobra. Parker's teammate Kent Tecovey put it best. Parker was such a spectacle on the field that you didn't stop to admire what he did. You kept looking to see what he was going to do next. By the end of the 70s, Parker was on top of the baseball world, and he knew it. He had a nickname, a highlight reel of memorable moments, and a personality as big as his talent. He wore an earring, one of the first pro athletes to do so, and spouted poetic, boastful one-liners that earned him comparisons to Muhammad Ali. Parker once proclaimed, "When the leaves turn brown, I'll be wearing the batting crown," a bold prediction of his yearly dominance. Such arrogant behavior made headlines, but Parker backed it up on the field. In January 1979, coming off back-to-back batting titles, he signed a 5-year, $5 million contract, making him the first baseball player to earn an average of $1 million per year. At the time, it was groundbreaking, a controversial deal, and it put a target on Parker's back. Some fans bristled at the superstar's swagger and salary. A black man in Pittsburgh with an unprecedented paycheck and an Ali-like confidence. The backlash was ugly at times. Parker was booed in his home park and even had nuts, bolts, and batteries hurled at him from the stands by angry fans. He later admitted he was baffled by all the hostility. For whatever reason, there was a lot of animosity against me in Pittsburgh. I never knew where the animosity came from because I think after Roberto Clemente's death in 72, I played a major part in reestablishing baseball in Pittsburgh. I'd go out and play 110% all the time, Parker said, looking back on those years. As the 80s began, injuries and off-field issues started to take a toll on Parker. He gained weight and missed time with ailments, and his production dipped from its peak. Rumors swirled about his lifestyle, and by 85, Dave Parker's name surfaced in the infamous Pittsburgh cocaine trials. He was one of several stars who admitted to using cocaine in the late 70s and early 80s. The revelations tarnished his reputation and many believe would later hurt his Hall of Fame chances. By 83, his final season in Pitt, Parker's batting average had plummeted and he was no longer the local hero who could do no wrong. The cheers had long since turned to boos. That winter, the Pirates parted ways with their fallen star. Parker's brilliant but tumultuous tenure in Pittsburgh was over. Yet, Dave Parker's story was far from finished. In fact, one of his greatest chapters was just beginning. Back home in Cincinnati, in 1984, Parker signed with his hometown Cincinnati Reds, determined to prove he was still the Cobra of old. Surrounded by familiar sights and fueled by pride, he resurrected his career. Parker became an elder statesman in the Reds clubhouse and a force in the lineup, averaging nearly 27 home runs and over 100 RBIs in his 4 seasons with the Reds. In 85, he led the league with 125 ribbies, 42 doubles, and belted 34 bombs and finished runner-up in the National League MVP vote. He made 2 more All-Star teams as a Red, and fans in Cincinnati who remember him as the local kid embraced his renaissance. Reds coach and former teammate Tommy Helms noted the effect of Parker's presence. When you have so many players that Dave Parker is looked up to, even Pete Rose, who hit ahead of Parker in Cincinnati, once quipped that he, quote unquote, should be giving Dave Parker half of his salary, acknowledging how much the Cobra's presence behind him improved his game. Parker had found a form of redemption in the town where he grew up, reestablishing himself as one of baseball's feared sluggers and as a mentor to younger teammates. As the 87 season ended, Dave Parker was 36 years old and had just put together several resurgent years. He had proven the doubters wrong in Cincy. But there was one more act to come in his playing career, an unexpected move that would take him to the West Coast and into a clubhouse full of rising stars. In the winter of 1987, the Reds traded Parker to the Oakland Athletics. It was a chance for the aging Cobra to chase another championship, this time as a veteran leader of a new generation. Little did anyone know that Parker's influence in Oakland would help shape a budding dynasty. Up next. Summer sports are popping off, whether it's baseball, under the lights, golf so pristine, it makes you want to buy plaid pants, or soccer matches with stakes higher than your uncle's weekend barbecue bets. And if you really want to crank up the adrenaline, FanDuel is where it's at. You're already yelling at the TV, pacing during penalty kicks, and fist pumping after a walk-off bomb. So why not raise the stakes? With FanDuel, every pitch, putt, and pass means more. While your friends are baking at the beach, you're cashing in from the couch. I've been using FanDuel all season, tracking my favorite matchups, chasing same-game parlays like a lunatic, and sweating out bets like it's the bottom of the ninth. The app is ridiculously easy to use. Payouts hit faster than a fastball down the pipe, and it turns a Tuesday night game into a full-blown showdown. Trust me, once you try it, watching sports without FanDuel feels like bunting with 2 outs and the bases loaded. New to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Oakland's clubhouse in the late 80s was as colorful as they come, from Ricky Henderson's constant chatter and base-stealing bravado to Dennis Eckersley's fist-pumping mound celebrations, and Parker fit right in. He brought a veteran swagger and a sense of fun, trading bombs with the young guys and keeping the team loose. But when it came time to compete, the Cobra's intensity set the tone. On the field, Parker's presence lengthened an already potent batting order. In 88, even as the oldest regular in the lineup, he contributed with 12 bombs and 55 RBIs, helping the A's win 104 games and dominate the American League. His mere presence protected the younger sluggers, giving pitchers another threat to fear. Off the field, Parker's impact was even more profound. He had, quote unquote, already done it, as Tony La Russa would later say, meaning he had been a superstar, a champion, and even a cautionary tale. And he was eager to share that wisdom. Dave Parker was a great influence on young guys like Jose Canseco and Mark McGwire because he had already done it, La Russa recalled. He was already a true superstar. He really was a great mentor for these guys. Parker took the young stars under his wing, teaching them how to be professionals day in and day out. He showed a work ethic forged from years of ups and downs, reminding the kids to stay hungry and focused. If a young Mark McGwire was slumping or a brash Jose Canseco was riding high, Parker's steady voice was there, offering pointers on hitting or a story from his own glory days to keep things into perspective. In '88, the A's stormed to the World Series, and Parker was right in the thick of it. Through his numbers in that postseason weren't gaudy. He had key moments, a line drive single here, a clutch walk there, that contributed to Oakland's pennant win. But the joy of capturing the American League crown was quickly soured by a World Series upset. The mighty A's fell to the underdog Los Angeles Dodgers in 5 games, a defeat punctuated by Kirk Gibson's now legendary walk-off homer in Game 1. For Parker, it was a flashback to '79, the last time he'd been in the Fall Classic. Only this time, he walked away without a ring. The disappointment cut deep for the whole team. La Russa later said that literally from the first day of spring training in '89, the A's were on a mission of redemption after coming so close. And Dave Parker, now nearing 38 and nearing the end of his career, was more determined than anyone to help finish what they had started. That '89 season would prove magical for the A's, and it showcased Parker's enduring skill and leadership. Earlier in the year, the A's faced adversity. Jose Canseco missed months with a back injury, and star closer Dennis Eckersley spent time on the IL. In their absence, Parker's veteran steadiness kept the lineup dangerous. He may have lost a step of foot speed, but the keen eye and wisdom of a seasoned hitter were on full display. Parker launched 22 bombs and drove in 97 RBIs in '89, his highest RBI total in years. At an age when most players were winding down, he played nearly every day as the A's primary DH, finishing second on the team in RBIs and providing clutch hits whenever they were needed most. His performance earned him the league's outstanding designated hitter, a testament to how vital his bat was to Oakland's success. The A's surged into the postseason again, powered in part by Parker's bat in the midseason return of a revitalized Jose Canseco, along with the blockbuster addition of Oakland icon, you know who it is, Rickey Henderson. In the AL Championship Series against the Blue Jays, younger heroes like Henderson stole the spotlight, but Parker was a constant presence, chipping in hits and guiding the team with his experience. Then came the '89 World Series, a Bay Area showdown between the A's and the Giants that would be jolted by a devastating earthquake. Before disaster struck, the A's had taken a 2-0 lead in the series, and Dave Parker had his World Series moment. In Game 1 on Oakland's home turf, Parker stepped to the plate and smashed a home run against Giants pitching, a blast that rattled the seats in the Coliseum and gave the A's an early surge of momentum. It had been 10 long years since Parker last homered in the World Series game, and here he was in '89, in his late 30s, still delivering on sports' biggest stage. After the Loma Prieta earthquake forced a 10-day pause and cast a somber mood over the series, the A's returned to finish off a 4-game sweep. But in comparison to the lives lost and a community in mourning, Oakland's championship celebration was muted. In the subdued clubhouse at Candlestick Park, Dave Parker found a quiet corner amid the champagne and commotion. He later recounted that while his teammates and family celebrated modestly, he sat at his locker with a bottle of champagne, drinking it by himself. It was a bittersweet scene, a far cry from the wild euphoria one might expect after winning it all. For Parker, this second World Series title, a decade after his first, carried profound emotion. He had climbed back to the top of the mountain, but the journey had changed him. Perhaps as he sipped that champagne alone, the veteran slugger was reflecting on everything it took to get there, the triumphs and setbacks, the critics and comebacks, and the satisfaction of knowing he had given the game everything he had. In 2 seasons with Oakland, Parker's impact went beyond the stat sheets. He had helped shape a championship culture. Teammates saw how the big man handled pressure and prepared for games, and they drew inspiration from it. The young bashers he mentored would go on to have stellar careers of their own, carrying lessons from Parker well into the future. He was really a great mentor, La Russa said, and the proof was in how those A's teams played with a mix of swagger and professionalism that mirrored Parker's own style. When the 1989 season ended with a trophy in hand, the Athletics knew they had owed a piece of that championship to the veteran who had been there and showed them how it's done. Not long after hoisting that World Series trophy, Parker's tenure in Oakland came to a close. The A's, loaded with talent and aiming to stay young, allowed the 38-year-old slugger to move on, but he left Oakland with another ring on his finger and the admiration of a clubhouse that he had helped mold into winners. Dave Parker's time with the A's proved that his influence in the game was still immense, that even in the twilight of his career, the Cobra could strike with impact. Now, as the 90s dawned, Parker faced the final stretch of his baseball journey, and new challenges beyond the diamond awaited him. Up next. Dave Parker's final years in baseball were a victory lap of sorts, but also a prelude to new battles he would face after hanging up his cleats. After the championship glory with Oakland, Parker wasn't quite done astonishing people. In 1990, at age 39, he signed with the Brewers and proved he still had thunder in his bat. He clubbed 21 bombs and drove in 92 runs for Milwaukee, earned another Silver Slugger award, and even made the All-Star team one last time. In the Brewers clubhouse, Parker seamlessly shifted into the role of wise veteran yet again, embracing a mentor's role for the next generation. One talented 21-year-old on that Brewers squad, a promising outfielder named Gary Sheffield, found himself under Parker's wing. The grizzled Cobra taught Sheffield how to be a professional, pulling him aside for extra batting practice and sharing tips born from decades in the game. Years later, people would credit Parker for helping set Sheffield on the path to stardom. Parker loved that part of the game, passing down knowledge, and it kept him going even as his own skills inevitably began to fade. In 91, Parker's 19th big league season, time finally caught up with him. He split that year between the Angels and the Blue Jays, mostly coming off the bench. His once mighty numbers dwindled, and at 40 years old, Dave Parker retired at the end of the season. He had amassed 2,712 hits, 339 home runs, and 1,493 RBIs. Staggering totals that spoke to both excellence and longevity. Yet, for all his on-field achievements, what may have been the most impressive was his influence on others. As former teammates Eric Davis observed, Parker transcended that locker room with his leadership, mentoring so many different players from coast to coast and from culture to culture. After retiring as a player, Parker stayed connected to the sport. He did stints as a first base coach for the Angels, a batting coach for the Cardinals in 98, and even returned to Pittsburgh as a special hitting instructor. He also put down roots back in Cincinnati, investing in local businesses, including owning several restaurant franchises and giving back to the community. Parker had transformed from a fiery young superstar into an elder statesman of the game, admired for his baseball wisdom and generous spirit. Even as his post-playing life seemed calm, Parker was quietly facing a challenge far tougher than any fastball or contract dispute. In the early 2010s, he started noticing a tremor in his hand. In 2012 came the diagnosis that stunned him and everybody close to him: Parkinson's disease. The news hit like a bolt. How could the indestructible Dave Parker, the chiseled athlete who shrugged off collisions and played through broken bones, now be battling a degenerative illness? Former teammate Kent Tecove voiced what many felt. How can this happen to him? He's invincible, Tecove wondered in disbelief when he heard. But Parkinson's was all too real. True to form, Parker met the disease head on with resilience and resolve. His wife, Kelly, became his rock, helping him through the treatments, regimens, daily exercise, and frequent doctor visits. Parker leaned on the same determination that had driven him in his playing days. He refused to feel sorry for himself. I've never asked why me, he told one reporter. Instead, he channeled his energy into fighting back. He established the Dave Parker 39 Foundation to raise money for Parkinson's research, turning his personal battle into a way to help others. Though his body slowed, Parker's spirit remained strong. He continued making public appearances, signing autographs with a shaky hand and a smile, and encouraging fellow Parkinson's patients to stay positive and keep bopping through life. A nod to the slogan on one of his old t-shirts from his playing days. In 2019, the city of Pittsburgh invited Parker back for a 40th anniversary reunion of the We Are Family 1979 championship team. When he walked onto the field at PNC Park, older and moving carefully, the Pittsburgh fans rose to their feet and roared in appreciation. A hero returned home at last. Parker later admitted, "I almost cried. That's something I try not to do, but that brought tears to my eyes." The big man who had once been showered with boos in his town now received a standing ovation that left him choked up. It was a full circle moment of redemption and reconciliation. The Pirate faithful were acknowledging not just the stats he put up decades ago, but the character and perseverance he showed in the years since. As the 2020s arrived, one honor had still eluded Dave Parker: a plaque in Cooperstown. Year after year, his Hall of Fame candidacy fell short. Voters perhaps still hesitant due to his mid-career troubles. Parker watched other players with lesser resumes get the call while he waited and waited. He should have been in Cooperstown, insisted Eric Davis, Parker's former Reds teammate, in a 2019 documentary. And not as a visitor either. Parker himself stayed outwardly patient, though privately he hoped for that final validation. Finally, in December 2024, the call came. A special Veterans Committee voted Dave Parker into the National Baseball Hall of Fame class of 2025. 15 years he was on the writer's ballot, and another decade on the outside looking in. The Cobra was officially and at long last a Hall of Famer. The moment was overwhelming. "I cried," Parker confessed when asked how he reacted to the news. "It only took a few minutes because I don't cry." For a man who prided himself on toughness, it was a rare crack in the armor, a brief moment of tears to cap a lifetime of achievement. "The honor," Parker said, "made me feel great, especially because it fulfilled a promise he had made to his mother decades ago. As a boy, he had told her he would be a baseball star and buy her a house. Now, with his Hall of Fame induction, every dream that little Dave Parker once professed had come true." Tragically, Dave Parker would not have long to savor his Hall of Fame triumph. Today, just weeks before his planned induction ceremony, Parker passed away after his long battle with Parkinson's. He was 74. The baseball world mourned the loss of a giant. Tributes poured in, friends and former teammates spoke of his booming laugh and even bigger heart. Fans remember the jaw-dropping throws and clutch hits, and writers recalled the quotable showman who never backed down from a challenge. Quote unquote, his legacy will be one of courage and leadership matched only by his outstanding accomplishments on the field, said Jane Forbes Clark, chairman of the Hall of Fame, adding that his name will be remembered forever. Indeed, Dave Parker's story is now etched into baseball history. A story of talent and toil, of controversy and redemption, of a man who rose from the streets of Cincinnati to the pinnacle of his sport and later faced life's toughest test with dignity and grit. As we remember the Cobra, we remember a complete ball player who could do it all and a mentor who lifted those around him. We remember a trailblazer who endured the slings and arrows that came with being bold, black, and unapologetic in an era when that wasn't always welcome. We remember a warrior who battled through pain, from on-field injuries to off-field illness, and never lost his fighting spirit. And we remember a flawed hero who owned up to his mistake, sought redemption, and ultimately earned the respect reserved for legends. Dave Parker's journey teaches us about resilience, about using one's platform to help others, and about the power of second chances. His legacy lives on in the players he mentored, the fans he thrilled, and now forever in the halls of Cooperstown. Parker himself once said he didn't want to be the next Clemente. He succeeded in becoming the first Dave Parker. And that Dave Parker will always have a shining place in baseball history. Thank you for listening to this special tribute to Dave Parker, a man whose life in baseball was as powerful and unforgettable as the swing that earned him his famous nickname. Remember the words of the Cobra: when the leaves turn brown, he'll be wearing the crown. Dave Parker certainly wore it well. Thank you for making Locked On A's your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts.